Santa's little helper. Santa's little helper.
Hello and welcome. My name's Kathy A, and today I'm going to do a collab, and this is with a really special lady. Her name is SusieQ B, and she's formerly Glitzy Granny. You may remember from that. She's like an old-time country girl from West Virginia, and she's a really nice gal. She's just a storyteller, and I think that this is going to be a lot of fun. So what I've decided to do is she and I both are going to talk about Christmases past, and she is a great storyteller, me not so much, because I usually do a makeup channel, but I thought it would be fun to share some Christmas stories with you since it's the holiday season. And I think probably my earliest memory of Christmas is we had a tiny little Cape Cod house in Connecticut, and I don't know how they did it, but my parents each had 2 children when they married, and then they had me, so there were 5 children, and this tiny little 2.5 bedroom house. And I was a baby, and I used to sleep upstairs in one of the side rooms, and I'd come downstairs part the way, and I would shout at my mother, "I'm ready to come down, Mom, see what Santa brought." And she would get up, and she would plug in the Christmas tree and then wake my father up, and he would always be like hungover, you know. It was always rough. It was like 5:30 in the morning, and I would just be in wonder. I had to wait for my father to get his camera out with the flash bulb, and he'd always like have a burnt bulb in the camera, and I'd hear him swearing, and he'd have to put a new bulb into the flash attachment for the camera. He kept the settings the same no matter it was inside or outside. It was so funny. All of our pictures are just, you know, sometimes he hit it right with the, you know, exposure and all that stuff, but most of the time, anyway, yeah, there were all these pictures of me growing up, like, you know, going, you know, and like this when I was little, because it always looked wonderful to me. And about a week before Christmas, it was never earlier than that, my mother used to give us $5, my father and I, $5 to find a Christmas tree. And back in the 1960s when I was little, you know, Christmas trees were $3, $4, $5, you know, for a tree. But as time marched on, you know, in the late 60s and early 70s, trees were a lot more expensive than that, but she still gave him that same $5. And, you know, you get him, you know, you talk him down on the price, and you make sure you get it. And my father and I would go to the lot. Of course, all the trees were $25, you know, or more. And he'd like, you know, just keep this our secret. And we'd always get this beautiful, big, real tree. We never had an artificial tree in the house. And we had all these ornaments, glass-blown ornaments and things from my great-grandmother, and we had different things. Every single year I looked forward to certain ones, putting them up on the tree. And of course, after my parents passed away, I'm the one who inherited a lot of the bulbs. And because of moving, being overseas, everything else, only a few have survived. So they're very special, and they're always on my tree every year. And this is the tree. This is Woodstock. He used to hang from my little car from the rearview mirror. And here's my British soldier from England. Here's my lipstick for YouTube. That is the snowplow in the background. Ice skates. Radio station stuff. These are some dogs that I took care of when I was an innkeeper. And we have the Find the Pickle contest. Is this something that you do? It's a pickle-shaped ornament, and you hide it on your tree, and then you have the children all gather around. The first one to find the pickle gets an extra gift. This is one of those special ornaments from my great-grandmother in the turn of the century. And this one is one of the only large ones that survived. Of course, my Dunkin' Donuts cup. We try to have ornaments on the tree. A lot of them represent the different family members. Bud's daughter is the princess one, and his son has a baseball glove. His other daughter is a runner, and his youngest son, James, is a rock star, so we have the rock star thing for James. The camera is me, because I'm really into photography. And he is Smirnoff. He loves to drink Smirnoff. And we have various things. There's a disco ball, because we met at the disco. But I mean, we have a lot of things that are kind of fun, and we just put the tree up this weekend, so. My favorite gift as a child was a stuffed dog I named Snoopy. A huge thing. I brought it to school for show and tell, and I just was best friends with it, and had a squeaker in its ear. I kept that thing forever, and it was, you know, it had mold, it had bugs, it had everything in it, and I kept it because it was just so special to me. It was my favorite friend. I talked to it, and it made me laugh. And anyway, a few years ago, I took a final shot with it and kind of recreated 50 years later photograph. And one of my brothers who was in the service, he was in the Navy, and his boat was struck in Vietnam. When he was in Vietnam, they blew up a lot of the ship. And back then, when you wanted to find out some news, or if you wanted to make a phone call to somebody who lived in another part of the world, you actually had to call the operator first, and then it was usually a she, had to get all these cables and cords and things connected for you. And then you would, you know, get a call back from her like 4 hours later saying she had connected you to the party, and you had to shout because you couldn't hear very well. And I think a lot of times people don't understand why older people shout on the phone, because they don't think people can hear them. But that's why. I mean, a long distance phone call, it was an expensive thing. It was very only on special occasions. We never talked like we do nowadays on the phone. It was very special. But anyway, we waited. We had heard his ship was hit. There was an announcement sent to all the parents of all of the crew members, and they said they were going to announce, you know, who the crew member was that passed away. There were several crew members that passed away. My brother was on watch that night, and he was talking to his friend, having a cigarette, and he said, well, I'll see you in the morning or whatever. And he went on his way to go to sleep, and the guy that took his watch, he turned around for a second because they heard noise, and they blew up a lot of the ship, and his friend who had just taken his watch perished. He saw him pass away right in front of his face. So he came home that year. It was 1969, I believe. But it was nice to see my brother alive. We heard back from him later on when his ship went to shore. They called, and we found out that, you know, he was okay. And the rest of the family decided to come because it was rare to see him. He was always overseas. So everybody came, and the whole house was full of like 12, 13 people. And there were children and babies, and it was exciting for me to see all of my brothers and sisters and their husbands and wives and babies and things. So it was a full house, and we fit all of those people in this tiny little house, and we put all of the stockings all the way down. And my mother did her usual big old orange on the bottom and a couple of walnuts, then some Hershey's Kisses, and then one gift on the top. She used to fill them like that so that, you know, she didn't have to put too much stuff in the stockings. And that was the Christmas that he came back. It was very, very special. And we always had really good Christmases. I mean, we always had these beautiful big natural trees, and then we spent hours throwing tinsel on them. You know, it was that tin. So we used to always love to watch all the Christmas specials on TV every year. And I especially remember like the King family specials. Do you remember them? It was this huge family and they did different musical things. The kids didn't do so much, but the adults were pretty popular, and they had a special every year, and it was a big deal to watch those things, you know. And they always showed The Wizard of Oz on Thanksgiving, and then Christmas time you had the King family, and then you had Lawrence Welk Christmas specials. And it was kind of fun looking for like pictures to show you of these different things. I started watching some of them again, and like from the 1950s and 60s, it's so sweet. They left the advertisements in for some of the videos on YouTube, and you can see the Geritol ads and the Dodge cars and the Plymouths, and it's really quite sweet. You know, it's really takes you back. You know, I really love that era. I was very happy as a kid. I felt very spoiled, and I was. 1980 was probably one of the only 2 years I didn't celebrate Christmas, and that was the year that John Lennon was shot in December. And I just was beside myself. It just represented so much in my life, and I couldn't celebrate anything. I just couldn't believe that something like this had happened, and it really affected me. And that was a year I just didn't celebrate at all. I didn't have a tree, I didn't decorate, I didn't send cards, I didn't bake cookies, I didn't do any of the stuff I normally do. And it's very rare that I wouldn't do that, because I love doing that stuff every year. And even after my mother passed away, I still celebrated. I wasn't real happy about it, but I celebrated. In 1985, I came back briefly from California, and I was planning to move to England. But that last year in '85, I decided to surprise my parents, and I rented a Santa suit, and I dressed up like Santa. And on Christmas Eve, what I had done was I changed into the Santa suit, and I had a pillow and everything on. I had the beard and the mustache and the hat and everything, and I knocked on the door, and I had presents. I had a little sack with presents in it, and my mother answered the door, and I went, "Are you Marie?" You know, and I pretended I was Santa, and they knew it was. They thought it was a female or a very feminine male, and they let me in. And I put the presents under the tree, and I said, "So come on, sit on my lap and tell me what you want for Christmas," you know, and she just was laughing, and then she got a little nervous, and she said, "We do know you, right?" She didn't know who I was, so it was kind of fun. I had to pull the beard down, and that was one of those weird Christmas things, a little cross-dress thing going on. Gotta show you my mug. Isn't this cute? This is Glam Girl, it says. Coffee, oh my gosh. One of the really special things that I did one year was in 1988. I was living in London, and I was by myself for Christmas. And so a few weeks before Christmas, there was an advertisement in the newspaper, and I always read the newspaper, asking for volunteers to help with the mayor of Islington's Christmas party. It was something they put on every year for the elderly people in the community. And I volunteered to be a bus assistant. And what a bus assistant does is the driver has a big coach kind of bus, and he drives to all of the elderly homes in town, and I get out of the bus and go and get them and help them onto the bus. And then when we get to the party, I help them, like, you know, make sure they get their meals, and that if they have to go to the restroom, I help carry them over to the restroom area and, you know, make sure they're all set. And then at the end of the party, I help them onto the bus again, and then help them off the bus and then back to their house. And it was something that was so special. I mean, it was wonderful. It was this huge thing. There were hundreds of people there. people were very elderly, living in conditions that you wouldn't believe, heartbreaking. And this was, they had music, they had great meal, they gave them each bags of food to take home and presents. They had Father Christmas there, who was like our Santa Claus. He passed out presents, and they had prizes, and they sang songs, and it was just a wonderful, very warm feeling. And I helped in the kitchen, I helped get the meals out. And I think if you really like feeling sorry for yourself, do something like that. You know, go call up your town hall or whatever and ask if there's any organizations that can use some help on Christmas Day serving meals. And do this, because you step outside of yourself and you're not lonely anymore. You're not feeling bad, because it's just something that I loved it so much that the following year, even though I had a boyfriend and his family had invited me for Christmas, I did this, and I visited them on Boxing Day, the next day. I didn't go to their house for Christmas. I did the Islington thing again. And it's just such a wonderful thing to help others and to just see how other people live, you know. It's just, and their spirit for life and their attitudes, and just, they were just wonderful. And I took a lot of photographs and sent them to the organization that put this on. I got a lot of letters afterwards from children of some of these people, because they had passed away. And they said the photos I took were really special to them, because in some cases they were the last photos taken of them. 1996, my mom was going through chemotherapy. She had colon cancer, and she had been going through treatments for quite a while, and she was very tired, and she just didn't feel like doing anything for the holidays. She said, please don't do anything for the holidays. I don't feel like it. I don't want to go to dinner. I don't want people over. I don't want... But she was at her chemo session, which took about an hour or so. Then they put the chemicals in you. I went over to the house and I decorated everything up. I put a tree up. I put presents underneath. I had the lights on. And she was just so tickled with that. It was just, she had the biggest smile on her face. That was her last Christmas. More recently, just a couple years ago, Bud has a large family. He has 4 children, and he has, we're going to have 7 grandchildren this year, but he has, at the time he had 3 grandchildren, and they came out to the kitchen because Grammy was going to show them how to make blender hot cocoa. And I, you know, had them each put a packet of M&Ms in the blender, and we put the hot milk in and a little cocoa powder and sugar and stuff. And I started to blend it, and they all had their pretty little Christmas dresses on. And the top wasn't on straight, and everything went all over the place. The cocoa went everywhere, and they were just coated in chocolate with their beautiful little Christmas dresses. And here I was, oh my gosh. So I tried washing their clothes. I had them go into my closet, and they each, you know, put t-shirts on and fancy dress. I told them they could wear anything they wanted. And they put, you know, some shirts on and things, and they wore them for the rest of the party like that. And I tried desperately. I washed their clothes like 6 times, trying to, you know, get them all clean, and I couldn't get the cocoa out of them. Oh my gosh, it was awful. But they refer to that as the blender hot cocoa incident. So that just about does it for me. I hope everybody's having a really nice holiday season, and you know, even if you're just chilling out through the season and just enjoying the lights on I really enjoy the lights on the houses. We actually have snow right now, and I'll show you what we've got. Winter is coming. Isn't it the bird that says spring's here? It's a little messed up. Yeah, but this was our snow. See her? And this, of course, is our fireplace. And I have my little Charlie Brown tree here. I have that out every year. And we have a really nice fire going. And then we have 3 of the children are going to be visiting us this year, so we have their stockings up, and these are just some of the Christmas cards. It's early on yet, and I've just sent my address out to people, so we haven't received them all yet. And this is cool. This is a light my friend Corinne gave to me. So all in all, we are starting to pull things together, which is nice. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season. Take care, everybody. Toodles.